Welcome to the dungeon, Damian. How you doing?
Yeah, good, Gary. How are you, mate? You well?
I'm rested after having a little bit of a Christmas break and getting back into the swing of things. I had a couple of episodes to publish in January before I had to record anymore, and I'm sitting here going, "Where's the record button?"
Yeah, no, I'm glad you had the break. I saw a couple of photos you put up, especially with your drone.
Hey, you. Yes, you with the moist grass on your bare legs. This is a new year and a new podcast. I'm asking you to join me in some changes made just for you. I want listeners to join the new Facebook group for Aussie Lawn Stars, so you can give me feedback on existing episodes and content ideas for more episodes. But more importantly, it's a place you can ask questions. The simple questions may get answered by members in the group already, much like you would find in any community group. But the questions will fuel and feed future episodes. More importantly, if you ask a question in the group or on the YouTube comments section, you may get sucked into the dungeon where your question and you become a feature episode. In short, join Aussie Lawn Stars on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram to participate and engage with me directly and other listeners who want to help or be helped. Oh, that was nice. That
Yeah, wasn't it?
beautiful spot down at Albury there.
Yeah. No, it was good, mate. It was good. I'm glad you had a good break. Yeah, and you posted a bit of stuff. I did make comment that I do like the direction the podcast has gone a little bit away, not so
Thank
much
you.
away from mowing sort of stuff and gardening, but bringing in a bit of other stuff, like as in I can't remember the girl's name from Profit First.
Katie.
Yeah. No, that was an awesome interview. And and even today with what dropped with
Alvin.
mate with the chippers and whatnot. It was
Yeah.
a bit of good content, mate. Well done, congratulations.
Thought it was coincidental that his name's Alvin and he works with chippers.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
It's like, got to utilise that in the title.
Indeed.
Anyway.
But yeah, no, well done, mate.
Yeah, no, I want to provide value for listeners. So I see a lot of value in interviewing people who are on the tools because that gives the listeners a lot of diversity in the way other people run their business. But there's infinitely more value when you interview people that talk about the systems that we use and the tools that we use, people who've got that industry standing where they can really help us to hone our business. Makes a big difference, I see.
Oh, definitely. I look at it, and this is probably going. It's not a shot of cheek or anything like that, but my young bloke is 13, the other one's 16. They can mow a lawn just as well as me.
Yeah.
And they can use the ride-on mowers just as well as me, that sort of thing. But they can't run a business. So the tools that you can push out there into the mainstream contracting space that might shed it might be one little nugget you take out of something to do with finances or how to CRMs or whatever it may be. I think it could help any amount of people out there.
Well, that's it. I think your young guys, there's people in LMCA that are entered LMCA at those ages, and some of them are doing really well. I'm pretty impressed with what they do. But yeah, it comes back to having support from the community and finding the right people to help you through the right problems, doesn't it?
Exactly right. But yeah, so no, it's I think any tools like that beneficial. Whether it be financial advice, whether it be mechanical advice, or something you just might pick up. I think it's great, mate. I think it's a good angle that you're going down.
And that's what we
keep it fresh.
That's what we want to get stuck into. This topic today is tools and what's the right tool for the job. But I want to preface this with the idea that what I've looked at, the people I've talked to, the people I look up to and go, okay, what do you think I could do better with my podcast? People have said create community, create engagement with that community. And one of the things is putting it out there with a new Facebook group for lawn stars in Australia. If you're a lawn star, much like you are, join up the Facebook group, hit me up with some questions, raise a topic that you think would be good to discuss. And in this case, you've said, hey, let's talk about tools that are the wrong tool or the right tool for the job and the difference that makes. And I'm like, all right, let's talk about it, you and me.
Fair enough.
So I'm keen to do more episodes like this, but this one in particular is going to be fun. So I'm sure you have countless stories of where you've had the wrong tool for the job. You've probably heard me talk about a few on the podcast over the last 3 years too.
For sure. Let's go to the point in question, Gary, that I did send you a photo of an acreage job, and it's one of my regular customers
Yep.
that we normally use a bigger mower for. But
Yep.
through no fault of anyone's own, we didn't end up with the Toro 60-inch. And the job had to be done. It was a fire reduction job in a quarry.
Yeah.
And the grass was hip height, if not a little bit higher in places. So I used a 42-inch time cutter
Yeah.
to get through it. It got through it, no worries in the world. A little bit slow, obviously, and took a bit of winding out to get out, and probably belt screaming, but inevitably it got through it. But the photo I took, yes, at one stage the grass was higher than the mower. But it was one. It was.
Yeah.
It was one. It was one of the. I was more worried about snakes coming across the deck at me. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but it just got me thinking that when I sent you that photo to say, hey, this wouldn't be a bad topic of talk about, where people maybe overcommit to the job they could actually do with the tools they haven't got, or experience they're probably not in that sort of ballpark. And, I just thought it'd be a good topic of conversation.
You've raised another topic I love talking about there, snakes. I have seen that many red bellies in the last couple of months. Just New South Wales, we've had hot weather and then wet weather and then hot weather. And the amount of red bellies that are come out of the woodwork just because they love that environment, it's insane.
Yeah, we're much the same down here. With I think the whole eastern seaboard really has experienced sort of the same sort of weather, where we've had, like, if you had a look out, the window here at the moment, it looks like it's the middle of spring in places, and the growth is just phenomenal. Which is great. But with your, I guess the acreage stuff, like we're doing, that all up was probably, I think it was about 15 acres all up.
Wow.
A couple of days worth of work, obviously, and brush cutting and whatnot. That probably wouldn't have needed cutting again from when we'd done it, 3 months ago. But we've had that bigger season that you could bale it twice type thing if you're on the farm.
Yeah. Well, when I've been in Tassie, I've been watching people baling hay. That's where I go.
Yeah.
But it's funny that the job is not requiring a 42-inch time cutter.
No, it's not. No, it's probably a tractor and a slasher inevitably. But look, a 52, 54 commercial machine, even 60, whatever it may be, does the job fine.
Yeah.
No worries in the world.
And the 42-inch can do the job.
Yeah, it doesn't like it though.
And it means you're slowing down, right? So the 42 is a finish mower, and it can move along at its full speed, which I'm guessing is about 12 kilometres an hour maybe.
12 to 14, yeah.
Yeah. So it'll move along at 12, 13 kilometres an hour, 14 kilometres an hour if it's doing normal finish mowing.
Mrs. Smith's front or back lawn.
But when you're asking it to do this, you add load to the belt, you add load to the mower, or you slow right down. And even then, you probably slow right down and still add load.
Yeah, exactly. You still do all of that sort of thing. Look, yeah, like you say, it will do it. It slowed it down, but it was one of those scenarios where it was basically we had to get the job done.
Yeah.
And it was, at the time, it was the only alternate to use it. So we did. And it got it done, no worries. But obviously, now it's, she's new belts, she's new blades, she's new everything in that regard, and basically a service, if you like, after it's all said and done. But it's, but it just, being sort of in my position, I talk to a lot of the other franchisees that will take on, a few jobs like this, and not like that in particular, but other jobs. And it's one where you go, when do you buy the machine? When do you need the machine? Or do you need the machine, or can you find someone else to do it? Myself personally, I like to bite off more than I can chew because I don't like to go hungry. But it was just one of those topics of conversation, that the right tool for the right job.
Yeah. And like you say, you'll be more inclined to take the job on even if you don't have the right tool,
It's not
as I
personally.
have been at times as well. For the last 3 years, I've been telling people, don't be stupid. Don't take that job on with the 42-inch time cutter.
It was funny enough, someone in LMCA put up a post asking why they weren't cutting grass too well with it. And, there was a problem with the belts. And the photo was taken in front of about 2 foot high grass, green grass. Everyone's comment was, you don't use that for that. You need a commercial machine, blah, blah, blah. I actually nearly put a photo on one of the comments after that, but didn't. But it's absolutely right. It's a finishing machine. It's not a acreage machine.
Now, I've done the same with an old 42-inch Dixon. It had a pressed metal deck on it, so you can imagine the abuse that pressed metal deck copped. It didn't appreciate me. I
ended up. I think I said to you copped a decent sized stone, and now we've had to weld up the side of the deck where it busted the welds on it.
Yeah.
So it's not made for it, but it got the job done in the end.
Yeah. So I've done similar. I've asked too much of my machines countless times, and I've found that's one of the reasons why I now tell people, I'm like, all right, the right tool for the job is a tractor and a slasher. Yes, you can take a 27 to 37, 40 horsepower zero turn, and it'll do that job, and it'll do it reasonably well. The right tool is still the tractor with the slasher.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
But that raises a couple of other questions there. We're going to have lots of rabbit holes to dive down here. I was talking to somebody last week about doing a one-off job. The owner of the property has 2 or 3 acres, and they have been doing their 2 or 3 acres with a Razorback.
Jeez, that's a couple of days' work.
Well, I think they're doing it. They were doing it in a couple of hours with the Razorback, right? So it's not as bad as what you would normally put a Razorback through. It's the sort of job where you would normally use a zero turn.
Yeah, okay.
But because it's a little bit steep, a little bit slopey, a little bit questionable, they've gone to a Razorback. There's the owner of the property, and I was talking to the people connected with the property, and they got a contractor to come out to quote, and I believe the contractor is going to use a regular zero turn or stand on to do the property for them as a once-off job.
Yeah.
And it's not really like the Razorback is not the right tool for the job in that situation because, like you say, it's going to take 2 or 3 days. It's not a quick mower.
No, well, I've got a Razorback, as you know.
Yeah,
they're a slashing machine for really, really overgrown, weedy saplings, whatever it may be that you're going to tear through,
as well as really steep slopes.
Exactly. They're a great machine for that. They're recommended to go to 38 degrees, I think. You can push them by experience a lot more than that. But they recommend to go 38.
Depends on how tight your pants are as to whether you push them a lot more than that.
With the rock bar over mine, seatbelt, I've never had the seatbelt on it because if it's going over, I want to go, I don't want to be sitting on it. But look, the Razorback, they're top of the game with the slashing machine. They really are. Can't get better. But they are so slow. Yep. Like they're a niche machine. I probably only use mine now 2 dozen times a year. As I said, I'm thinking of selling it because I don't really use it that much. But it's paid for itself in the first 2 jobs I ever did with it, and
that's it.
It just pops up that all of a sudden you do get a fire reduction slash. That the mower's not going to go through. You're not going to spend forever walking through with a brush cutter. Sort of thing, you can just run the Razorback through it. So it can sit in the garage for a few months and not be used. That's fine. You're right with the tool for the job. Like they should be using, say, a zero turn.
Efficiency is the thing that rules a business and the decisions you make as a small business owner. Right Mowers give you the options in their product lineup to match efficiency with size, fuel usage, and the type of jobs you want to target, from catching to mulching or side discharge, from roadside verges to acreages, and manicured lawns to 6 feet tall and super long. I've been using the Right Stander I 42-inch with a Catch Pro for manicured areas and the Stander ZK61 to maximise productivity for large open acreage mowing. If you need to replace your push mower, try the 32-inch Stander B. If you have more open access to residential properties, there's a 42 through to 48 inch option that suits you. And if you want to enter the acreage market, the 52, 61 and 72 inch machines have choices in engine size and model type to suit the work you want it to do. Right standards go the distance, saving you time and money season after season.
Something big enough that's going to hold a slope, which, like you get on your smaller zero turns, as in, say, a 42, well, that's just dangerous, on your hilly stuff, because once she's gone, you just, hold your breath and hopefully you don't swallow the seat on the way down.
Yep.
A bigger machine with a better weight ratio, should be using the zero turn.
If you go to a 52, 54 or a 60 inch stand on, they absolutely kill it on the slopes.
Yeah.
They've got really good traction for those sort of jobs.
Yep. And I've never had a stand on. I am investigating that at the moment, sort of thing. One, too, that, I'm not getting any younger, sort of thing, and sitting on sitting in a seat for, 6-8 hours a day, it does wear and tear on your back. And, the Toro, the new Z Masters, they do have the MyRide seats and everything on them, which are super comfortable, but you're still in a sitting position.
I guess it comes down to the type of work you're doing. And I think that type of job raises the question, would you be better off with a Razorback or would you be better off with a Ventrac, which you can put a much wider flail deck or a slashing deck on it? And talking to people that have used Ventracs, apparently they're sort of a middle of the road machine when it comes to heavy duty slashing. The Razorback will probably tackle heavier saplings than the Ventrac will.
Oh, certainly do. And with the Razorback as well, they will take on the massive tall stuff. Like we've gone through 12-foot high fennel and stuff like that. But funnily enough, the same as any mower, if you've got real wet, just normal grass, they'll choke up like any other mower.
Yep.
Sort of thing. So it doesn't mean it will go through anything every time.
Yeah.
But the stuff where, especially your fire reduction stuff, and also too, it's only a 39-inch deck. You've got to do an 18-point turn to turn them round. But they'll get in the smaller spaces. And, they're designed for what they are. They're a slashing machine.
So this is where you compare the different machines that are available that can do this sort of work. You've got the 50cc brush cutter. You've got the Razorback, which is the next size up from the brush cutter. Then you go to the Ventrac or a couple of other machines. Like I think there's a couple of Kubotas that are an out front that you can put a flail slasher on, or a rear discharge deck on. And they might be four-wheel drive, so they're competing with the Ventrac in terms of middle of the road. Once you go to tractors, there's a guy down in South Australia, Jake. I'm just trying to think if I got his name right. He's running tractors and slashers, and he's just bought a four-wheel drive type tractor that's got a really wide stance. It looks like a Ventrac on steroids. And it's like, okay, if you've got a really aggressive tractor, really wide stance, made for doing steep slopes with a really heavy-duty slasher on it, then you're taking that to the next level and you're going, okay, those slopes are going to be better, the thick foliage is going to be better, everything about it's just like you got more horsepower, you got bigger gearboxes, everything's designed to take a beating compared to the 42-inch time cutter.
Yes, mate. Yeah, I know. Thank you. But yeah, look, like I said, you wouldn't normally use that for that job. It was just one of those things that had to be done. But you're absolutely right. It's getting back to the point of the right machine for the right job, and that's and that, you can take the acreage stuff out of it. It could be the right push mower for the right job. Like you can go to Bunnings and buy a Massport. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Massport fan. I use contractors. And spend $550 or whatever on a mower that mulches, catches, and does whatever else. Well, I'm not real sure. But you're not going to push it through 8 inches of damp grass because it will get there, but it's going to take you a week to get through it, type thing. So if you're that might be good if you mow your lawn once a fortnight at home. Whereas you're better off if you're in that contractor space or wanting to be in that contractor space. Yep. Best part of $2,000 for a contractor or a HRU 216, it's still going to pay for itself over the next 30 days, as opposed just in time management.
But if you grab the wrong tool for the job there, you go to Bunnings and you buy the cheapest push mower you can find. It's the same as buying even a brand name. You go to Still FS55 Whippersnapper, or the equivalent in any brand. I know the Still model number is a little bit better than the other ones. That's why I refer to that one. But petrol machine running on what we do day in, day out, as soon as you put a bit of load on that machine and you're running it back to back, just hour after hour after hour, you're going to overheat. You're going to burn the rings. You're going to scar the cylinder, and you're going to have a $250 machine that's now a throwaway item because you've overloaded it, worked it too hard, and burnt the engine out.
Oh, 100%. We found that out, I guess the hard way, if you like, is when I first started doing this sort of contract work, if you like, I did a lot of work with Tasrail with their vegetation management down here. Well, not knowing enough about anything, and also not probably getting enough advice, I went and bought a couple of 131 bull handle brush cutters.
Yep.
Probably 12 months max they were done.
Yeah.
Because with those some of those verges in the side of railway tracks were only being done every 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
We run 260s and 360s, sort of thing.
Yep.
And the 260 is a daily use machine for me, sort of thing.
And for most people, I would say the 131 is overkill. If you're doing daily work and then occasionally doing some brush cutting, the 131 is probably as much as what they need, and it's still overkill.
But also too with the 131, like it's a four valve machine. It's not that true 2-stroke type thing, So
run it on 2-stroke fuel, but it's actually a 4-stroke machine.
Correct, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. I don't recommend that machine in a hurry for anybody.
Oh, look, it worked well for us on a few of our bigger commercial properties where the grass wasn't long because we were there every fortnight, and just being on a brush cutter for that amount of time, you could be on, a couple of hours or more brush cutting fence lines, but it wasn't real. It was beneficial in that regard. It's a light machine compared to the, say, 260.
Yeah.
You could the replacement heads were the same as the 94s, all that sort of thing. So everything sort of interlocked. So it worked well for that. But just with the heavier stuff and getting into the right tool for the job, it was completely the wrong tool for the job.
Well, my 131 now lives with my oldest child. He lives less than 500 metres down the road. He's got 2 children himself, married. He doesn't mow his lawn every week. And so I'm like, here, use the 131. It'll do your overgrown grass, and I'll supply the fuel to make sure it's actually got the right mix in it.
Fair enough.
But it's like I don't foresee a need to use that machine in a hurry at the moment. I'm like, you use it. It stays at his place, and if I ever do need, I'll be like, hey, I want to borrow the machine for a day.
Yeah, you're heavily battery focused anyway these days, aren't you?
Well, let's talk about that, because when we're talking about the right tool for the job, I love battery gear. Yes, I recommend battery gear, but the moment somebody's talking about runtime and working the machine a little bit harder, the battery tool, mower, whippersnapper, the head trimmer is usually pretty good, but the mower or the whippersnapper, you can very quickly overload those to the point where your battery runtime suffers immensely. And even if you buy Pellink, talking to Conrad Brookman up in Brisbane, yes, it can do overgrown work. There is no doubt about it. And you go the Ego commercial machine, yes, it can do overgrown work. You go to battery tools, yes, they can do overgrown work, but it doesn't mean it's the right tool for the job.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can't comment so much on it because I don't have battery gear. I'm still, caveman sort of.
Yeah.
In the petrol world, a couple of our franchisees down here, one in particular, Leon. He went when he went to training. Plank's obviously heavily involved with Jim's group.
Yeah.
He actually bought one of the Plank mowers. He thinks it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
I love it.
I've seen them in use, and fantastic machine, funny looking machine, but fantastic machine.
Yeah.
And another one of our newer franchisees, he took I think a full range of Plank gear out as a demo from Brody at Pello Mowers up north, and he's bought himself a mower as well, and he's got the HRU 216.
I would say with the Plank, if you are doing maintained lawns, you're going to love it. Like it's a 24-inch machine, so it's just a little bit bigger than your average 21-inch machine. It's not as big as a 30. But the deck design, you can overload it if you start cutting thick wet grass. So if you take it down the Huon where you are, go an hour over the mountain and start trying to use it down there where it's always wet, you probably go, no, that's not the right tool.
Yep.
Even at Hobart, I can imagine you have days like that.
Yeah, we do. We have not so much. Yeah, we have. With the growth at the moment, it is full on at the moment. Like even the council, and their contractors and Stornoway and whoever it may be, you can see they're not struggling to catch up, but it's not something like it normally looks like. It's just the weather, the climate we've had, and the humidity and the amount of rain.
Yeah,
like it's still looking like spring.
Yeah.
Which is which is great, really. Like it's keeping everyone on their toes.
I was listening to a contractor today talk about the Pelink, and they were saying they get 2 days of their type of work out of one battery on that mower.
Yeah. As I said, Leon's got the mower. He said the same thing. Yeah,
that's unreal.
Yeah, it's a.
I will say battery tools.
$2,200 battery though.
If it was $1,500 when I interviewed Luke from Pelink 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. I would still say it's a really good commercial tool. But when it comes to the right tool for the job, I look at, say, the newest Ego commercial whippersnipper. I would compare it to the Stihl 131 in terms of power and usage. It's better put to use on those jobs that require a little bit more power rather than just your everyday maintained jobs. It's a little bit heavy for my everyday maintenance. I go for something a bit lighter, and it's quite okay for doing a bit of overgrown stuff. But again, you push its limits, your runtime suffers, and then you start going, would I be better off going for something that's bigger and stronger?
Look, I think when it boils down, I think if everyone had their choice, no, actually, I won't say that's a silly comment, but if a lot of people had their choice, they'd probably go battery, and that's myself included, especially for the, like the aged care facility I look after and that sort of thing. But that run time is always in the back of my head. Like, have I got enough to get through? And we can put it. You can put all the bells and whistles on your bus to, inverters, whatever it may be, keep it charging all the time. We can plug it in at the facility, which is no problem. But it'd just be one of those things where it'd just be in the back of my mind. And I believe a lot of people have probably the same opinion.
Yep. Yeah, I've talked to Stihl, I've talked to Ego, I've talked to Husky, I've talked to Pelink, and I think that is one of the issues that comes up time and time again. When you are talking about runtime and how many batteries you need to get through a day, right? If you go with Ego or Pelink or Stihl or Husky, you can get a battery that goes on your back and holds a decent amount of charge. And I think
umbilical cord,
yeah. If you can deal with the umbilical cord, then that's a good option.
Oh, for sure.
The other option I've heard a lot of people say, and I have enough batteries to consider this as a viable thing, is how many batteries do you need to just get through the whole day and put them all on charge when you get home?
That makes probably the most logical sense.
Well,
plain simple. I think, and then again, it'll be a debate that goes round and round, that the cost of, say, how many batteries would, and I don't know, Gary, as I said, I don't use battery gear for a full day at a commercial site or whatever it may be that you look after. How many batteries would you go through if you weren't charging one after you took it off?
And the question there is individual. It's not something that is going to be the same answer for everybody.
100%. But just an average on your opinion. How many? 4, 5, 6, 8, 10?
So let's narrow down what tools we're using first, because if you're running a mower as well as a whippersnipper and a blower, then that changes compared to if you're talking about how many batteries to just run the mower. So with the Pelink, you'd have one battery for your mower, and then another battery which goes on your back to do your whippersnipper, your blower, hedge trim or whatever, and you go, all right, 2 batteries for the Pelink will probably do you, and that's all you need.
Correct.
Right? If you're talking regular cartridge style batteries, and say you're just running a whippersnipper, I'm going to say about, depending on the brand of choice and what the weight of the tool is, then my preference at the moment is the Husky 520 or 525 whippersnipper, which would mean you're going to get around 4 or 5 batteries to get you through a day, maybe 6 if you're going to push it a bit harder. That's just one tool.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So if you then add the blower,
Yep.
that depends on whether you're doing residential work or commercial work. Because as you know, if you're using battery to blow a car park in the aged care facility, that's a big job. I do not believe there is a adequate battery blower for that sort of work yet.
No, you're still with the steel backpack with that one.
Yeah, petrol powered backpack blower.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So okay. So let's go and So say you got the battery blower. You've got your mower, whether it be Ego, whether it be Husqvarna, whatever it may be. So you're thinking you said 6 for the lawn trimmer, and then you've got say blower and a mower. So you're talking around a dozen, if not 14 batteries, if you're only using one each individual without charging.
I've heard other people say 10 batteries is enough to get them through a day, and there's obviously massive variation there.
Yeah.
Right, if you're talking 2 people using it or just one person using it, and then if you go, all right, there's 2 people, I need twice as many. No, not necessarily. But
see, I think this is the thing that may, I suppose I'll put myself in that boat, scare people that are traditionally petrol operated, as myself.
Yeah.
That to buy the skins, what we've just spoken about, whether it be Husqvarna or whether it be whatever, it doesn't matter. And then those amount of batteries, that is a massive, massive outlay.
No.
You don't think so?
Well, let's talk about some numbers. We got to do this.
Go for it.
So if you're a solo person today running a full-time lawn run and you're doing less than $100,000, it's a hobby.
Of course.
Right? So say your turnover is 150, and I know I expect more than 150 for somebody who's solo that's actually going full-time. You might be 120 to 150K. I'm not knocking you. But if you're doing it full-time and you're over 150K, that's the person I'm talking about. Right? So if you invest a fraction of that 150K into batteries, what you're getting is a return on investment for your fuel price, right? So if you're just pumping out fuel in your 2-stroke machines and your 4-stroke machines, there's direct correlation 1-to-1. You have so many litres of fuel, it gets you so far with your whippersnipper or your mower or whatever it is. With the battery system, you've got 2 options. You can buy 2 batteries, and you might need more depending on the system because most of them will have variation here. But if you go with the Husky whippersnipper that I've recommended there, 2 batteries and a charger, and you charge one battery while you use the other battery, you can get through your day. Yes, you need to set up your inverter or you need to plug it into your customer's PowerPoint while you're there. I don't care how you do it. You can get through the day with 2 batteries. After 12 months, you're going to replace those 2 batteries, right? That's the way it goes. If you have 2 batteries, after 12 months, buy some more. If you buy 10 batteries, what you're doing is you're multiplying the amount of batteries you have. So you're multiplying the amount of time that those batteries last you because they're working 1/5 of the load. So they last 5 times as long, right? But not only is it 5 times as long, because they're working 1/5 of the load, they get more cycles before they die.
Yep. Math.
Yeah. So for people who haven't experimented with this, if you run a battery really hard, flat out, full throttle until it dies, it gets hot, right? And then you chuck it on the charger. The charger is putting heat into that battery. So then you pull it back off the charger, you put it back on the tool. It's running hot again. And that heat, along with the rapid charge discharge cycle, is doing damage to your battery. So if you slow that down a little bit, let it charge when it's cool, you have 10 batteries to cycle through, so it's only getting charged overnight instead of getting charged 5 times a day, then say a battery that should get 1,000 cycles out of it, at the end of 1,000 cycles, that battery is going to be above 80% valuable, whereas the one that's being used back to back is going to be more like 60% value of its life left in it, right? So by comparison, your batteries, your 10 batteries, they're not just going to last 5 times longer. They're going to be a lot healthier when they get to that time.
100% agree with you. 100% everything you've said. I've listened to enough about it, and researched and whatnot. More the point I guess I was making was you're everyday contractor like myself, everyday contractor that runs full petrol. To buy 10 batteries and those skins, the outlay, I think you're blinded by the price of the initial outlay.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to always be a problem in that regard, and also in the back of your mind that the battery is going to run out. Or they go, well, I can't afford 10 batteries. I can only get 2, have a bad experience with it and go, no, I'm going to stick with petrol, without looking through it. And I think that's, if battery's the right fit for people, they probably need to investigate or listen to what you just said more so.
Yeah.
Because, I take that on board, what you just said, no worries in the world. And the benefit over the course of 5 years or 2 years or whatever is probably going to outweigh petrol.
Yep.
And also the maintenance costs on it alone.
Yeah. Maintenance is a big thing.
Oh, well, I'm not sure what pricing is like where you guys are, but, to get, say, a brush cutter, let's just talk line trim, a whippersnipper. Like most of them have a minimum charge, and that's around the $200 mark plus parts for a whippersnipper.
Yeah.
So unless if you're capable of servicing your own, you do it. We all do, let's face it. But if it's someone who's probably not in that space, battery's probably a better angle to go because of the maintenance involved.
Well, there's several factors that come into that maintenance question there. So the first one is just outright what the cost of maintenance is. The other one is your downtime, because when you're talking about your cost of your batteries or your cost of maintaining the petrol whippersnipper, the biggest cost to you is when that machine is off.
110%. Why do you think I used the 42-inch on cutter the other day? So the job had to be done. Otherwise, it would have cost me money, which Netflix still has. But anyway, but not to the degree. But you're absolutely right that any downtime is like throwing money into the wind.
Yeah, so if you don't have to do maintenance, and to be fair, there's a couple of issues I'll bring up here. I'm not getting paid by anybody to say this. I'm not worried about brand loyalty or anything here when it comes to saying this.
You need to push the sponsors a bit harder then, mate.
I do. So if you want to be defended on this and you don't want me to bag you out for what's really going on, you need to come and sponsor me.
That's it.
So I've had both battery and petrol tools that have failed miserably just out of warranty. Right? Husqvarna has been the brand that I refer to there for this issue particularly. That's what I've had experience with. I'm not knocking Husqvarna and saying they're terrible.
As in petrol or battery or both? Both, yeah, okay.
Both.
Yep.
Right? So, if it was another brand, I probably would have had an issue with another brand. It's just my experience.
It's like steel. You have issues with carbies in them.
I've had countless issues with steel too. Yeah.
We all have.
The point here is just out of warranty, had to replace a machine. And either of them, it's a case of going, okay, the petrol machine, I took it back into the Husky dealer and I said, oh, look, this is what's going on. It looks like it may possibly need a rebuild. What's the cost of parts to do new piston rings and cylinder bore? They said it's not worth it, just get a new machine. Now, they might have been factoring the labour for the shop to rebuild it rather than for me to do it myself. Either which way, go back to that whole downtime is costing more money than the cost of the new machine. So better off having a spare machine sitting there than having a dead machine sitting there and not being able to work.
Oh, definitely. Like I run steel, everything.
Yeah.
And yep, like I say, I've had plenty of problems, especially with the carburetors on it. And it's a common thread, that sort of thing. But I always have have a look in the garage. There's probably about 4 different. I run the KM94s for everything. I think they're a good machine.
They are.
But again, they'll get to that stage where you basically, the only way you're starting is with your finger on the accelerator, and the only way it's going to stay going is keeping the revs up on it. And it's just, but the cost to do anything to it outweighs, keep it for a second machine in the back of the trailer or whatever it may be. Yeah. Whereas you can go spend I bought one last week, $470 or whatever it was for a brand new machine.
You keep the second machine for your employee, so when he's not keeping up, you're getting the dirty machine.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's it. Especially if they're hedging, so they've started every time they're on top of the ladder. But it's one of those things that the cost benefit of saying, yep, probably need a carby rebuild, probably need this. No, just give us another machine.
Well, battery's the same, right? So
Yep.
there's less maintenance to do on the battery tool in the meantime. Like the petrol tool, you're going to do your filters and your spark plugs.
Mm-hmm.
Your general items that you can do to maintain the machine. Once you have to take a machine to the shop,
Yep.
the cost of the labour for the service outweighs the benefit of getting it serviced.
Well, the labour component, and I can't be quoted on this, but you can work it out from a bill.
Yeah.
You're 100 plus an hour for an apprentice to work on your machine, but that's okay. You're paying for something. So once you put the parts into it, all of a sudden you got a $300 bill for a machine you may have had a couple of years. For that same machine, like I said, I paid $470 for a brand new one with warranty.
That's right. So if you're talking about a whippersnipper and you're spending 100 plus parts, and say might end up being 2 hours labour, so 200 plus parts, it adds up really quickly. It's not worth it. Now, sometimes it is, right? If you know that it's a spark arrestor in your still, because that's a common thing, then that's an easy fix, right? It's worth doing the maintenance. If you know that you've used crappy oil in your still and it's got a bit of carbon buildup around the exhaust port, it's fairly easy fix. So there's times when the maintenance is worthwhile, but bring this back around to why we're talking about this. Is the battery the right tool for the job? So you save yourself on those items, but you will still have things that can go wrong with the machine, and you have to weigh up whether it's repairable or whether it's replacement.
Yep, sure. So forgive me my ignorance on this with battery-powered stuff. So something goes wrong with a battery-powered machine. Is it basically back to the shop and pick up another one, or is it?
I've had both. So I've had items which are repairable and items which are not worth repairing.
Yeah, okay.
So typically with battery, you will experience a throttle trigger failure. So the mechanism is electronic on the throttle trigger, and because it's a mechanical electronic mechanism, a little bit of dust in there, they play up. So that's just expected, is that at some level, if you have battery-powered tools that have a throttle trigger, expect that to be a failure item at some point. And if it's replaceable, sometimes it's worth replacing it.
Okay, so say, Ego, for instance, which they sell all parts, say Total Tools or Sydney Tools, whatever it may be. You've gone and kitted yourself out with, whatever it may be. The guys, that's not a mower shop.
Yeah.
So they don't have mechanics. They don't have any like that. It's a retail store.
Yes.
Okay. Something goes wrong with the machine. You need a new machine. Is that, okay, this has failed at work. What are we doing here? Oh, we need to send it away, or do we just give you another machine?
So let me throw in a couple of things here. I've had a chat with Barry, the head of Ego in Australia.
Yeah.
Good talking terms with Barry, right? He has and is happy to have more mower shop dealers that represent Ego. And my local in Newcastle, Tinks Mowers, they are a service agent for Ego tools.
Yep.
So if I have a warranty issue with my Ego, I take it to the mower shop rather than back to the tool shop.
Yeah.
But the same is true with Makita, right? If you buy Makita from Sydney Tools and you have an issue, you could go back to Sydney Tools, or you could call Makita and say, hey, where's a service agent? Yep. And if you can find a service agent, you might get good service. If you can't find a service agent, you might have to go back through Sydney Tools or Total Tools and pray really hard.
Yeah, and that's, I guess that was just the point I was making about buying, if you want to, something your dealer doesn't stock, or if, say, in Tasmania, they don't stock anywhere, that if you're going to one of those big box sort of shops, whether it be Bunnings, whether it be whatever, they don't have a service area or a mechanics area. And that's, I'm not sure whether to put people off, because they sell a fair bit of Ego through Total Tools.
It is a problem, and it's a talking point when it comes to what you buy. We see that in LMCA, any of the mowing contractor groups that discuss what tools to buy. That is one of the biggest contentious issues with buying battery gear, is if it's supported by a local dealer, whether they will actually be able to work on it or not. And that issue I raised, the throttle trigger, is probably one of the leading issues that you'll come across. You'll come across a few other issues. Wherever there's a electronic component that meets a mechanical component, there's a chance for an issue coming up.
But I think that also plays in hand with, I guess, how we started this conversation, though, is that I think it's really important, like you obviously use Tink's tools or whatever it's Tink, that, important for contractors to actually find a dealer that they're comfortable with.
Yes.
And that they can go to. And it might be out of your area. I know mine is.
Yeah.
Mine's on the way down the hill, and as you said, and it's good, 45 minutes in traffic, an hour away from me. But I support them because I know I can get service.
Yeah.
I know that if something goes wrong, I can drop that machine off and I can have it back in that day if there's nothing major wrong. Or alternatively, they'll give me a spare machine so I can keep working. So I think that building that relationship and networks, as we've discussed before, is a big thing. And whether it be battery, whether it be petrol, whether it be ride-on or a push mower, I think that's where contractors any of us for that matter probably need to, probably get on the front foot to create that relationship. They're there to sell your product and whatnot, but you need to be, if you're not comfortable with that dealer where you may have bought your new Honda, search around for another one.
But on that issue, I've been in business for 15 years. It's only 2 months off, been 15 years, right? And in that time, I would say it's 50-50 when I've gone to a local dealer for an issue as to whether I get the dealer to do a repair, maintenance, or whether I'm buying a new machine and walking out of the shop with a brand new machine. So if you look at it from that point of view, 50-50, sometimes with battery, sometimes with petrol. So if you're going to buy a battery tool from a toolbox store instead, you go, okay, 50-50 if I've got to take it back and get a repair or whether I'm buying a new machine. If it's under warranty and it's fairly new, then often you'll be going back to the toolbox store and asking for a refund and buying a brand new tool.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.